When you grow up the oldest son in a small family, you learn early that sorry doesn't fix everything. That was something I learned long before my brother's kids came along. I never planned on being part of their lives this much. Truth is, I thought my brother Nathan had it under control. He'd always been the strong one, the guy who could take a hit and keep standing, a quiet fighter. But life's a hell of a brawler, and it doesn't pull its punches. His wife walked out 3 years ago. 2 kids, a daughter, 9 at the time, and a boy who just turned 5. She left without warning, said she needed to find herself. Nathan didn't chase her. He just locked himself in for a week, then came out looking 20 years older. I started helping out after work, picking the kids up, cooking dinner when he was on late shifts. It wasn't a burden. It felt like what a man's supposed to do. But kids, they test you in ways you don't expect. They're mirrors and they show you things you don't want to see. That day started simple. It was a Saturday. I'd brought over some old tools so Nathan and I could fix the porch steps that had been squeaking for weeks. He had a long list of things he never had time to get to. "Appreciate this, man," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Feels like every damn thing around here is falling apart." "Porch first," I said, "then maybe the world." He laughed in that kind of tired laugh only single dads know. The kids were inside. Ella was helping me make sandwiches earlier. Ben, the 7-year-old, was full of energy, always running, jumping, shouting. That boy's heart beat like a war drum. "Ben, get off the couch," I called from the doorway. No response. "Ben!" He froze mid-jump, pretending not to hear. I sighed. "Hey, that couch isn't a trampoline. You could break your neck." He gave me that look, the one kids give when they don't get their way. Lips tight, eyes full of fire. "Uncle Adam," he said, "you're not my dad." "No," I said, calm, "but I'm the one who's not going to let you split your skull open." He pouted, stomped off, and slammed the door to his room. I didn't think much of it, just another tantrum. But that night, when Nathan got home, Ben ran straight to him, tears streaming, voice shaking. "Dad, Uncle Adam had a man over, and he yelled at me, and he didn't feed us." Nathan's face went cold. His jaw clenched. "What?" he asked. I blinked. "What the hell are you talking about?" Ben kept crying, pointing toward me. "He said bad words. He told me not to tell you." Nathan looked between us. "Adam, what is this?" "I don't know, Nate. None of that happened." He frowned, stepping closer to Ben. "Buddy, are you sure?" Ben nodded frantically. "I saw him, Dad. There was a man." My chest tightened. "Nathan, you've got cameras. Check them." He hesitated. "Yeah, but what?" I snapped. "You believe this before you check?" "I didn't say that," he muttered. "But no," I said, grabbing my jacket. "You know what? Forget it. You don't need to say anything." I left before I said something worse. That night I sat in my truck for an hour just staring at the steering wheel. You can go to war, you can lose people, you can get through heartbreak, but the sting of being doubted by your own blood cuts deeper than any of that. Around midnight, my phone rang. It was Nathan. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low. I checked the footage. There was no one, no yelling, nothing. I didn't answer. "Ben refused to eat the food you made. That's all." I'm sorry, Adam." I let the silence hang. "I get it," I said finally, "but I'm done babysitting. I'm not putting myself in that spot again." "Come on, man, he's 7. "I don't care if he's 70. He lied, and you didn't even hesitate to believe him." We went back and forth for 10 minutes, voices rising until I hung up. That was the last time I saw them for nearly a year. The thing about cutting family off, it doesn't feel like cutting at first. It feels like distance, like a breath you didn't know you needed. But over time, That distance starts to ache. Holidays went quiet. Mom kept asking why I wasn't coming over. I told her I was busy. She told me I was punishing a child. Maybe I was. But what no one seemed to understand was this. It wasn't just about Ben lying. It was about how fast everyone believed him. You can't undo that kind of wound with sorry. I poured myself into work. Days bled together. Drywall, paint, hammer, repeat. The world shrank to a rhythm of noise and silence. Then one night I got a call. Mom again. Her voice was shaking. Nathan's in the hospital. My heart dropped. What happened? Collapsed at work. Exhaustion, they think. He's fine now, but the kids. The next morning I was at his bedside. He looked awful. Pale, eyes sunken, tubes running from his arm. Jesus, Nate, I said. When was the last time you slept? He tried to grin. Sleep's for rich people. You're an idiot. He chuckled weakly. That's what the nurse said. I looked around. Where are the kids? With Mom, he said. Don't worry. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he sighed. You were right, Adam. I screwed up. I shouldn't have doubted you. I nodded. Yeah, you shouldn't have. He closed his eyes. Ben feels awful, you know. He remembers it. Keeps saying he messed everything up. He did. Adam, what? I asked. You want me to say it's fine? It's not. He looked up at me, tired, broken, but still my brother. I'm not asking you to forget it. Just, don't make the kid pay forever. I looked away. Out the window, the sunrise was just breaking, painting the sky in golden gray. I'll think about it, I said. 2 weeks later, Nathan was discharged. I drove him home. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Maybe because the silence between us was so damn big. When we got to the porch, Ben came running out. Stopped halfway when he saw me. His eyes widened. Uncle Adam! I didn't say anything. He shifted his weight, clutching a toy truck in his hands. I'm sorry. Nathan looked at me, silently begging me to answer. I sighed. You remember what you did? Ben nodded. I lied. Why? He swallowed. Because you said no, and I wanted you to get in trouble. I knelt down to his level. You know what happens when you lie like that, Ben? He shook his head. You don't just hurt people's feelings. You make them afraid. You almost got me arrested that night. His eyes went wide. I didn't mean... I know, I said softly, but words have weight. You throw them carelessly and someone gets crushed. He started crying, and I pulled him into a hug before I could stop myself. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. Time passed. I didn't move back into their lives overnight. It came slowly. A dinner here, a weekend there. Nathan and I started working on the house again, fixing what we could, both of us pretending that the cracks between us were just in the walls. Ben changed, though. He was quieter, sharper. Every time he spoke, he looked at me like he was measuring my reaction, like he didn't trust himself to speak freely anymore. One evening, while Nathan was at work, I stopped by to drop off some tools. Ella was at a friend's house. Ben was in the backyard, sitting on the steps with his head down. You good? I asked. He shrugged. Homework done? Yeah. Then what's with the long face? He hesitated, then blurted, Dad said you used to be in trouble a lot. I laughed. Yeah, that's true. I was a pain in his ass when we were your age. He looked up. Did you lie too? I nodded slowly. Once or twice, sometimes more. What happened? My dad stopped trusting me. Took years to earn it back. Ben frowned. Did it work? Eventually, but I had to prove it. Not just say sorry. He thought about that for a long time, then said quietly, I want to prove it too. I put a hand on his shoulder. Good. Start by telling the truth, even when it's ugly. He nodded. That night when Nathan came home, Ben ran up to him and said, Dad, I broke your phone charger. Nathan blinked. Okay, Thanks for telling me. Ben looked at me and smiled. I gave him a nod. Sometimes the smallest truths fix the biggest cracks. It's strange how silence can feel heavier than words. After that night, Ben started clinging to the truth like a life raft. Every time I visited, he'd tell me something. Small things at first. That he got a B on a test. That he'd broken a dish. That he'd lied to a friend and told the truth later. Nathan said, "You've become his compass." I didn't know what to say to that, because I wasn't trying to be anyone's compass. I was just trying to keep the kid from drifting where I once did. See, back when I was 15, our father used to say, "A man's worth is what he does when no one's watching." But I didn't get it then. I thought strength meant defiance. It took me a long time to realize he meant honor. And I lost that honor once, long before Ben was even born. Nathan was working double shifts again. The factory had cut hours and he needed overtime to cover the mortgage. I started stopping by more often, fixing things, checking homework, making sure Ben ate something other than cereal. One night as I was tucking him in, he said quietly, "Uncle Adam, did Dad ever lie to you?" That caught me off guard. "Yeah," I said after a moment. "He did. What happened?" "I forgave him." He blinked, confused. "Why?" "Because he was my brother, and because he was sorry." Ben turned that over in his mind, staring at the ceiling. "Do you think he forgave me?" I didn't answer right away. "Yeah," I said finally. "He did. But you've got to forgive yourself too." That's when I realized something. The lie wasn't the wound anymore. It was the scar. And scars, even when healed, still remind you where you've been cut. A few weeks later, I was at the job site when my phone rang. It was Nathan. "Adam," he said, voice tight. "Ben got suspended." "What? Why?" "Fighting. At school. They say he hit another kid." I wiped sweat from my forehead. "I'll be there." When I arrived, Ben was sitting outside the principal's office, backpack on his knees. He looked smaller than usual, shoulders slumped, eyes red. The principal, Mrs. Green, looked relieved to see me. "Your family?" "Uncle," I said. "What happened?" She sighed. "Ben punched a classmate, split his lip." I turned to Ben. "That true?" He nodded, silent. "Why?" He didn't answer. Mrs. Green said, "Apparently the other boy said something about his father. We don't condone violence, of course, but..." I held up a hand. "We'll handle it." In the truck, I waited until we were halfway home before speaking. "Who was the kid?" "Evan." "What did he say?" Ben's jaw tightened. "He said Dad's lazy, that his mom left because he's worthless." My knuckles went white on the steering wheel. "And you hit him?" "Yeah." I pulled over, turned to face him. "Look at me." He hesitated, then did. "You don't fight because someone says something. You fight when someone does something. You understand?" He nodded, ashamed. "But..." I paused, taking a deep breath. "If anyone talks about your family again, you don't throw a punch. You prove them wrong. You carry yourself like a man who knows his worth. Got it?" He nodded again. "Yes, sir." When we got home, Nathan was waiting on the porch. He looked exhausted. Same uniform, same eyes that hadn't slept. "What the hell happened?" he asked as Ben went inside. "Kid mouthed off about you," I said. Nathan sighed, rubbing his temples. "God, I can't even be mad at him." "You shouldn't," I said. "He was defending you." Nathan looked at me, eyes full of something I hadn't seen in a while. Pride. "He's more like you than me, you know." I shook my head. "Let's hope not." He chuckled softly. "You turned out all right. Still working on it." That night after I left, I couldn't stop thinking about Ben, about the way he'd clenched his fists when he told me that story, the way I used to. A month later, our father died. It wasn't sudden. We'd known it was coming, but death has a way of making even the expected feel like a sucker punch. Nathan took it hard. Me? I wasn't sure what I felt. Our old man was complicated, the kind of man who didn't talk much, but when he did, it was scripture. At the funeral, I stood beside Nathan and the kids. Ben gripped my hand tight. Ella cried softly into her father's jacket. When it was over, Nathan and I stayed behind after everyone left. Just the two of us and a headstone that still smelled like wet marble. "You think he was proud of us?" Nathan asked quietly. I looked down at the grave. He never said, but yeah, I think he was. He nodded. "You know what I remember most?" "What?" "That night you took the blame for me. When we were kids, remember? The broken window?" I smiled. "Yeah, he whipped me good for that." "Yeah, and you didn't say a word." "That's what brothers do," I said. He looked away. Guess I forgot that for a while. We stood there in silence until the sun dipped low. In the weeks that followed, something shifted in Nathan. He started talking more about work, about life, about the things he wished he'd done differently. One night over beers, he said, "You ever think about settling down?" I laughed. "You mean with who?" He smirked. "There's that girl at the hardware store, the one who gives you extra screws every time." "Yeah, she also called me sir once. I think I'm past my prime." Nathan grinned. "You say that like you weren't a nightmare in your 20s. "Still am," I said. Then he got quiet. "You'd be a good dad, Adam." The words hit me harder than I expected. I thought about Ben, the way he looked up to me, about how easy it was to step into that role without meaning to. "I'm not sure I deserve that," I said finally. "Maybe not," Nathan said. "But you'd try. That's what matters." The storm came out of nowhere, literally and figuratively. It was late August, heavy rain, thunder shaking the windows. I was over fixing a leak in Nathan's roof when the call came. He'd been in an accident, minor but enough to keep him in the hospital overnight. I told the kids everything would be fine, but around midnight the power went out. The whole neighborhood went dark. Ben panicked, not because of the storm, but because he thought it was his fault. "I forgot to charge the flashlight," he said, trembling. "Dad's gonna be mad." I knelt beside him. "Ben, it's a storm. No one's mad." He shook his head. "Every time something bad happens, it's 'cause of me." My chest tightened. "Where'd you get that idea?" He looked down. "Mom used to say it when she was leaving." I froze. She said I was too much, that she couldn't take it. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Then I pulled him close. "Listen to me. That woman left because she couldn't handle life, not because of you. You hear me?" He nodded against my chest. We sat there in the dark, just the sound of rain on the roof and his small breaths slowing down. When the lights finally flickered back on, I realized something. Family isn't about who you're born to. It's about who shows up when everything goes dark. The next morning, Nathan came home, sore but smiling. I told him about the blackout, about what Ben said. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said, "He never told me that. Maybe he didn't know how." Nathan nodded slowly. "You think he'll be okay?" I looked toward the window where Ben was playing with Ella in the yard, laughing, mud on his shoes, sunlight breaking through the clouds. "Yeah," I said. "He'll be fine. He's got your heart." Nathan smiled. "And your temper. God help him." There's a point in every man's life when silence starts talking louder than words. For me, that point came 2 months after the storm. Nathan had gone back to work full-time. The kids were doing better. Ben's grades were up. Ella had joined the school choir. Things were finally steady, peaceful even. But I could feel something brewing beneath that calm, because I hadn't told Nathan the truth about the fight I got into years ago, about why I really left town before Ben was born. It wasn't just the drinking back then. It was the fact that I'd hurt someone, not physically, but in a way that left scars all the same. It was the reason I couldn't look my brother in the eye when he called me a good man. One evening, I found Nathan sitting on the porch, staring at the sunset, beer in hand. He looked older than he should have, tired, like the world had been taking small bites out of him one day at a time. "You ever think about Dad?" he asked. "All the time." "What do you think he'd say about all this?" I shrugged. "Probably that we're doing fine. Maybe that we screwed up less than he did." Nathan chuckled. "That's a low bar." We sat in silence for a while. The sky turned orange, then red, then dark. Then Nathan said something that made my stomach twist. "Ben asked me if you ever lied to me." I froze. "What did you tell him?" "I told him everyone lies sometimes. The question is whether you do it to protect or to hide." I nodded slowly. "And what do you think?" He looked at me, eyes sharper than I'd seen in years. "I think you've been hiding." That cut deeper than I wanted to admit. But he wasn't wrong. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in my truck, the engine off, the moonlight spilling across the dash. I pulled out my old phone, the one I kept in the glove box, a relic from a life I didn't talk about. There was one message still saved on it, from her. "Don't come looking for me, Adam. I don't need your apologies." I'd sent her money. I'd begged forgiveness, but I never got it. That woman, Jessica, wasn't some fling. She was my fiancée. Before Nathan met his wife, before the kids, before all of it. And I destroyed that because of one stupid lie. One night when I told her I was working late, I wasn't. I was drinking with friends. She found out, thought I was cheating, and I let her think it. Because it was easier than explaining who I really was back then. A coward too scared to be seen as weak. She left the next day. I hit the road not long after. And when Dad got sick, I didn't come back until it was almost too late. Now all that weight was coming back to collect. I had a choice, keep hiding or finally tell the truth. So the next morning I drove to Nathan's house before sunrise. He was on the porch again, coffee steaming in his hand. "We need to talk," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "That's serious?" "Yeah." He nodded for me to sit. "I wasn't just running away back then," I started. "I was running from a woman, from my own screw-ups." Nathan said nothing, waiting. "I lied to her. I made her think I'd cheated. It was the only way to make her hate me enough to walk away. I thought I was protecting her from the mess I'd become." I stared at the ground. But all I did was prove I was exactly the kind of man she thought I was. Nathan's jaw tightened. "Why tell me this now?" "Because Ben deserves better than another man who hides behind silence." He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "You were young, Adam." "Yeah, but that doesn't make it right." "No," Nathan agreed, "but it means there's still room to make it right." He stood up, clapped me on the shoulder. "So go do it." I didn't track Jessica down right away. It took weeks of thinking, of fighting the urge to let sleeping ghosts lie. But then one night, Ben asked me, "Uncle Adam, do you ever wish you could fix something you broke?" And that was it. That was the push I needed. I found her through a friend. She lived 2 towns over, working at a small diner near the highway. When I walked in, she saw me immediately, didn't smile, didn't frown, just looked at me, like I was a stranger she half remembered. "Adam," she said finally. "Jessica, what do you want?" 5 minutes. She hesitated, then nodded. We sat in a corner booth. I didn't touch my coffee. "I came to say I'm sorry," I said quietly, "for lying, for letting you think I was someone I wasn't." She tilted her head. "You think that changes anything?" "No, but I needed you to know the truth." Jessica looked out the window for a long time. You hurt me, Adam. Not because of what you did, but because you disappeared. You didn't even give me the chance to hate you properly. I swallowed hard. I know. Why now? Because I've got a nephew who looks up to me, and I don't want him to grow up thinking silence is strength. She nodded slowly. He must be lucky to have you. I smiled, bittersweet. I think it's the other way around. When I left, there wasn't forgiveness. Not exactly. But there was something close to peace, and that was enough. The next months were quiet. Nathan and I rebuilt a lot of what was broken between us. We worked on his house together, took the kids camping, taught Ben how to build a fire without matches. One night by the campfire, Ben said, "Dad told me you used to fight a lot when you were younger." "Your dad's got a big mouth," I said, smirking. Ben grinned. "Did you ever win?" "Sometimes. Lost more than I should have." He poked the fire with a stick. "Did it make you feel better?" "Not really," I said. "Mostly made me feel empty." Ben nodded, thoughtful. "Then why do people fight?" I looked into the flames. "Because they forget words can hurt more than fists." He stared at me like he was trying to memorize that sentence. Later that night, when the kids were asleep, Nathan said quietly, "You're good with him." "I'm just honest." "Yeah," Nathan said. "That's what makes you good." For the first time in years, I believed him. A year later, everything changed again. But this time, it was for the better. Ben turned 8. Ella sang at her school concert. Nathan met someone new, a woman named Claire, who treated the kids like they were her own. And me? I started seeing the world differently. I even called Jessica once, not to rekindle anything, but to say thanks. For the lesson, for the closure. She said, "Took you long enough, Adam." "Yeah," I said. "But I made it." The day I finally felt peace came unexpectedly. It was just me and Ben, working on the truck. He was covered in grease, proud of himself for tightening a bolt I couldn't reach. "Uncle Adam," he said, "Dad says you used to be wild." "Did he now?" "Yeah, he says you had to break before you could get strong again." I laughed. "He's not wrong." Ben looked up at me. "Does that mean I'll have to break too?" That stopped me cold. I wiped my hands on a rag and crouched beside him. "No, kid. You just have to learn from my cracks. That's what family's for." He smiled like he understood. And maybe he did. More than I ever did at his age. That night, after they all went to bed, I sat on the porch alone. The same porch where Nathan once asked if Dad was proud. The same porch where I'd confessed my failures. The night was quiet, stars stretching wide and infinite. I thought about Dad, about Jessica, about the lies and truths that built the man I'd become. And I realized something simple, something I wish I'd known years ago. You can't undo the past, but you can make peace with it. And sometimes that's all the redemption a man needs.